Welcome to Cheques Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. This is Shaun McGivern. And today's topic, 15 for 15 with Shaun McGivern.
So the 15 for 15.
Yeah.
See if you can work out how we wrote that off. But it's something that Mike and I have been talking about doing, for a little while. Haven't had the podcast for a little while.
Yes.
And the idea that we learn off each other's success, failures, and get inspiration, so we can kind of create our own path and move forward. So the 15 for 15 series, which we'll be running every once in a while. I don't know how often, Mike, but we'll do it every once in a while. It's about learning from those that kind of the episode is on their career, their wealth creation journey. I'm sure Shaun will talk a little bit about property today as well as the law. And so you can get a little bit of inspiration. So, Shaun, great to have you. This one, maybe a little bit more interesting than Will's, no offense.
I'm taking it's not my area.
But let's start with a really simple one. Tell us a little bit about your career. How did you end up as a partner at Haigh Lyon?
Okay, so I've been doing property law for about 21 years now. Started out with a mid-sized firm in Auckland. Really enjoyed property, got huge exposure to it, and got to talk with a lot of property investors for a lot of my client base at that particular time as a young one. A lawyer, you seem to, if you're in that commercial space, get put into property because it's a good way to learn transactional skills, contract negotiation, all those sorts of things. So have always had probably a bit of an affiliation with property due to the family. Grandfather, father have always had investment properties, and so I've sort of grown up sort of helping out about painting a room or the like. That was there. So property law was a great combination. It's two passions of mine with law and also property. So it led from there, went to London, sort of worked for a big American firm there for 5 years, and then made my way back to New Zealand and specialised in property before joining Haigh Lyon probably about 9 years ago, and been a partner there for a little while now. So yeah, and that's essentially been my role there, was to sort of build up a property team at Haigh Lyon, which is going well. We've got a great bunch of young lawyers there that do fantastic work and amaze me every day with their energy and basically just their enthusiasm and knowledge and how much they care for the clients. So it's sort of, you talk about people learning from each other, I'll learn some new tricks with the young ones as well as to what they can bring to law and the way they advise. So
How many people in the property team at the moment?
We'd probably be getting close to 10 or 11 in that team there. So covers all sorts of property work. Subdivisional work is a real specialty, but we do a lot in the residential space, commercial space, looking at leases and a lot of refinancing and helping out clients there. So it's the broad work, all property aspects are sort of covered by our team there.
Oh, cool.
And so I deal with a lot of people who have good salaries or in a profession where you can do pretty well for yourself. But an income only has a certain period of time, and it's about what you do with that income over that period of time. How have you gone about, I guess, creating your own wealth for you and your family? What are some of the areas that you focused on?
Yeah, good question. And we see that a lot as well, in that we have a lot of clients that have some money, but they don't actually probably use it as well as what they possibly could. Also, they just don't have that guidance as well. I was probably pretty fortunate that quite early on in the piece, after I graduated from law school, Dad pulled me aside and said, look, it's probably time to spend your money a bit more wisely than sort of going on the booze all the time. So he grabbed my brother-in-law, who's one of my best mates at the time as well, and both of us didn't actually have enough money to buy a house at that stage. So what he said was, look, why don't you combine pull your funds together, you're a lawyer, put together a company,
work it out,
figure it out,
draw something up,
and go and ask your clients as well. So that sort of lit a fire within me, and I just started asking questions. I think when you get to know or come across property people, they are normally pretty happy to share their knowledge of what they've done. And so one particular client, I just asked them, what do you look for in a property? And he said, just went forth with just this wealth of knowledge that came out, and I just spent 45 minutes writing down every little snippet that he'd told me, and then started trying to look for what he was doing, applying. I went and started looking at properties. I even went out with him and visited the properties of what he was doing, showed how he was adding value to the properties and the like, and sort of understood a little bit of what his modus operandi was when he was looking for a property. So, and he always just said it goes back to what you want to invest in and what kind of tenant you want or what kind of property you want. And once you've started to figure out all those sorts of types of things, ticks in those boxes. You know, what kind of tenants do you want? Do you want young professionals? They might pay a little bit more, but they might be a little bit more transient because they're only going to be here 2 years and they'll move to another flat. Or do you want a family that's going to be there because they will stay there longer, the kids will go to school, they'll become invested in the community, and so as a result you're probably likely to have a tenant that could well be there for 10 years. And so therefore there's a lot of an occupancy that you're going to do away with by having it there. But in order to attract a family, you know, you've got to have something like maybe a cul-de-sac, fully fenced, close to good schools, all those little things there. So, you know, my advice for those that are looking at property is sort of start asking the questions of those that you know have property or invested in property. You'll learn a lot from them in terms of what they've done well. There's always going to be the war stories there of what they've done badly as well and how they could have fixed it. And that was essentially what I did. Spoke with this guy, then started to ask more and more questions of clients. I'm lucky, obviously, I'm in the position I'm at, but it doesn't mean that there's not others that won't be out there to help you. You know, go and have a look at something like the Auckland Property Investors Association, or you know, talk to other guys. You know, like you guys know a lot of people as well that are in that property space that will gladly, I imagine, pass on a lot of knowledge to those that are starting out.
Yeah, they're also very passionate about the subject, right?
Yeah,
and whenever you're passionate about something, you're happy just to keep.
You can't shut them up.
And that's the problem.
I hope you're on the clock then, Shaun.
My problem is I love it, and quite often when I will get asked those questions, I will happily sit there. I'm kind of mentoring 3 or 4 at the moment, where you know I'll take phone calls from at 7:38, going, "What do you think about this property?" Or they'll send me text messages of, you know, trade me ad. What do you like about this? What don't you like about it? And I'll start talking to them about what I think works for them. I've, you know, showed some of them as to where they might have been going wrong, where they're actually not sort of trying to pour too much water on the enthusiasm about saying this might be a better investment for you for these particular reasons, your returns, your future ability to add value to it, and the potential of the property and what you're really looking for, and then encouraging them to just look as much property as they possibly can. Not just the open homes where they're actually going to buy, but also the open homes of where, if it's an investment property, that they're actually going to rent, because that's the competition that you're up against. So you need to know, okay, if I buy this property, what else is on the market that I'm going to be up against for a rental? Because while I've been told that there's this property, you know, rental valuation, does that correlate with what's actually going out on the market? And make it fun too, you know, go and pick some cool properties. Even dream big sometimes and go and just imagine what it might be to have that house as a goal so that you can see it. So then you keep your eye on the prize, is to build wealth through property, to buy that property.
I do that occasionally.
Well,
I kind of change the range of price on the Trade Me ads, and then go, oh, look, that looks
You must get people dropping by your house, Jimmy, to dream big,
So when you're mentoring those 3 or 4 people, what kind of, apart from educating themselves, when they're looking at individual property, what are some of the main tips you're giving, and maybe where are they also making some common mistakes?
So one of them started out and they had seen a property that was extremely flash, was new built, was great, but they're paying an absolute premium for that. They were then going to potentially put that into an investment property. They're only going to be there for a year or 2 and then look into investment property. And I said, well, there's a lot of money to put into it. You know, what is your ability to add value, and how are you going to increase your equity other than just riding the market up? And so she sort of had a bit of a think about that, and I said, as opposed to, look, you could buy this particular property, which, okay, granted, is not as nice, but it's nothing that can't be fixed by carpet, paint, changing door handles, changing light switches, putting in new lights, fencing and landscaping. You can add lots of value by doing those little things there, especially if it's your first property, that in the future you might then be able to rent out a little bit better. You know, you can go and get it revalued, pull the equity out from a refinance, which allows you then to buy the next one. And that was kind of how we started. We bought our very first one. Can I use figures?
Yeah, of course.
So a long while ago, it was 147,000, and we put.
Showing your age.
So I'm trying to put how long ago I started. And we put $12,000 worth of work and our time of paint and that into it. We then got it valued straight away, and it valued up at 215,000. So that was the next lot that we used to buy our next one. We did the same thing, and we rolled through like that, which has allowed to build the portfolio that way.
And I think that what you sort of mentioned throughout that was a key point, which is, you know, you put some of your own time and effort into it, right? And when you are younger and you have a little bit more time, a little bit more energy, you know, you can add more value by doing some of the work yourself, right?
I always say to clients that are coming to me for something, that don't be afraid of the ugly. And that is, you know, if the property that's there that's a little bit ugly, as long as the bones of it are good, it's probably put another 60% of the people off because they've seen it. It's not flashy. It's maybe not the nicest one to move into, but it's something that you can actually do up and create a lot of value really, really quickly, and you're only up against a smaller portion of the market to actually get into that. So again, as long as the bones are good and you've done all your DD to make sure that the house isn't going to fall over, you know, if it's just cosmetic stuff, don't stress about it too much. You can always put a new kitchen and a new bathroom in.
Yeah.
I guess a big question is with the recent housing policy changes. What are your thoughts? Does it change your own personal investment property strategy, the way you're mentoring in terms of the kind of places to be looking for?
Yeah, I got asked a question the other day about this, and I said, you know, is it going to stop you? And I said, no. Essentially, we'll keep investing, because my thoughts are, if you look historically in Auckland over the last 120 years, property's kind of doubled in value every 10 years, and there's been lots of legislation and changes and impacts of markets and coming and goings and the like. But consistently, that means that properties have grown on average to 10%. Obviously, it's not financial advice, but you know, we're looking at data that's been there. So my thoughts are is that you might lose certain amounts of interest write-off against your rental. There's some statistics are saying it's between $3,000 and $5,000 per property. Let's say you take a $500,000 property, you know, that's going to be $15,000. If it doubles in value over 10 years' time, okay, 10 years at $3,000 or $5,000 is $30,000 to $50,000, but you could be foregoing because of that and not doing it, foregoing $450 to $470 worth of equity gains in it, right? So that's a little bit of where you sort of want to make sure you're doing it. Obviously, you've got to be able to service it properly, which is really important. That's where you guys come in and do your things to make sure that that's how it's done. But to me, that's a lot of gains that you can make as a young person over a period of time. And for me, again, it's not, you know, it's an old cliche. It's not timing the market, it's time in the market. So the longer that you're doing this for, the better the chances that you're going to create a lot of wealth and set yourselves up for your future, your retirement, and your kids as well, if that's the case.
And on that interest deductibility piece, like you sort of mentioned, you just need to look at the numbers to make sure you can afford the tax on that. And there are certain properties you can purchase which are more favourable and these sorts of things. So yeah, there is ways you can sort of look to mitigate that.
Yeah.
I always say, look, for me, property investment has always been about getting the right team together. It starts with the broker, because that's the key one, is that how much can you afford?
Can we not give Michael pats on the back, please?
So actually, to understand it, you know, you've got to get your financial plan in there as well to understand how you're going to basically pay for this and what other outgoings you've got and where you want to be. Because I think that's where, you know, start with where you want to be, which is, again, is the beautiful house maybe, and work your way back. And that's where, if you've got the team, the professionals of that, the accountants, the lawyers, you know, I put a real estate agent in there as well, and so like, if you know the agents really, really well, they will put you on to what the great deals that are coming up, because they know that you're a legitimate buyer and they want to get you there as well. So stay in touch with those, create your team to achieve your goal, really.
Yeah, there we go, Michael. We met the team.
We did.
And so, I mean, it's great to hear about, you know, you're a partner to a law firm, Shaun, that you've done well in property. Whether, you know, in terms of your wealth creation journey, where's a moment where if you could have it again, you might have it again in terms of a bit of a stuff up? Yeah,
look, I think sometimes we probably decided that it was easier for us to do the management ourselves. And that was trying to save a little bit of coin there. Obviously, when you're first starting out, it's easier, but as you get on and on, I think, especially with the laws the way they are, having a property manager is key. We've changed, and they're all with a property manager now, and that's made a big difference for us, because it's allowed us time to find new deals or to do things, or even just to enjoy time with our family as well, whereas we wouldn't have been doing that otherwise. It also means that you're probably picking the right tenant. We've discussed this offline before as well, where we had what we thought was a great tenant. They presented really, really well, only to find that sitting behind them was gang connections. And so we then started to have issues with regards to pee being smoked in the house. And luckily we managed to get onto it pretty quickly. Knew a good lawyer who managed to help us out, and also managed to get out of that situation okay. Whereas if we had the property manager in there, they may have vetted a bit better. They would have looked a little bit behind the scenes as well. Might have looked on the Facebook and seen that there were gang connections there, and that this was a potential risk. So live and learn, and we've now got ours with it. I appreciate that may not always work at the start, but I think to give you time, which is what you want to look or find or to live and enjoy. what you're trying to work for,
Yeah.
then a property manager can actually help out.
Yeah.
And what about in terms of whether your career or your wealth journey? I find that sometimes there's moments where there's an opportunity and you have to, and you're not sure, and then you kind of jump on it in hindsight. You go, geez, I'm really happy that I did this. Does anything, whether career or kind of your own personal wealth, jump to mind there?
Oh, I think, I've got to go back to the start when Dad got us together, sort of cracked our heads together and said, look, this is something that you should do. I kind of started a little bit in terms of along the lines that this would be great for me as a lawyer to learn what my clients go through and to sit on the other side of the desk and to understand the stresses and what it might feel like for them, so that I would hopefully become a better lawyer. So that's kind of originally how I started out from it.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and now though I've found that actually property's been better than law in terms of just wealth creation and that's there. So
Cool. Great. Okay. Well, I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Please let us know what you thought. I'm sure it's all going to be positive. But if there's anybody you'd like us to bring on here for the 15 for 15, we'll see. maybe we'll have to change.
Yeah, we'll see when ESPN comes on.
Or Cheques Balances cancelled.
Yeah.
But thank you, Shaun, for coming on and giving us a good hour of your time over these three episodes. Please join us again next week. And if you've got any ideas for topics you'd like us to talk about, or anybody you'd like to jump on the podcast, please let us know. Have a great one.
Cheers.